Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Web Marketing Insights podcast from Gulo. I've got Zach Wilson, myself, Chris Bonney, today with you. Zach, really excited to talk about what we have on deck today, which is from Search Engine Land, the periodic table of SEO factors. We'll go ahead and throw that up on the screen right now so everyone can see what we're talking about. We'll give a link to it later in the podcast. But just give me your initial reaction to this. Zach, what did you think about it when you saw it? What were the things that you thought, hey, we should share this on the podcast today?
Well, this is the first time I've actually seen this from my standpoint, and I thought it was really interesting how they broke down all of these factors and all of these elements and gave the different rankings. They had the scale was 3 to, I believe, negative 2, negative 3,
Yeah.
3 to negative 3. And in terms of these factors, just to illustrate how they feel about different SEO factors that we all talk about. A couple of high level examples or that we're going to talk about a little bit here today are quality, speed, authority, backlinks, emerging markets. Those are a couple of the outliers that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, agreed. So if we just put it on the screen here one more time for folks to look at, and yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. It's taking what we know, some of what might be new to folks, and just putting it into a format that is fresh and different and new, and really sort of helps it resonate with folks as to what the priority levels are of some of this stuff. That's what I really liked about it. Like you said, that rating system up to 3. And let's just jump right in on the first one here, which is quality. There's a area, a column of these elements, and the top one, highest rated one, is quality. And we know that in the end, we can skip all the other stuff about SEO, right? If it's not quality, then we don't have much to begin with. So what are some of the things that you think, are factors in the quality of something? How does somebody know if something is a quality blog post, for example, or not, and is SEO friendly?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing to keep in perspective here is speaking to your audience, right? Like if we're talking about cleaning supplies and our site's about cleaning supplies, we need to talk and write and deliver content that's in the vein and category of cleaning supplies. And you can't get too off into the weeds. So there's an element of quality, which is providing the user that sort of answering their intent when they're looking for something. If our whole site is about cleaning products and cleaning goods, then the quality of the content that we're delivering and the intersection of the content needs to be in that category. And that's the low hanging fruit.
Sure.
You don't want to spread yourself too thin. And we see this a lot in people trying to get too much, go after too many keywords, right? So instead of staying in your lane on cleaning products, you'll get off into different things that might not be within your lane, and that's part of the quality metric. And I think the second best thing, the second most important thing is, trying to answer a question or trying to make sure that you're responding to solving a problem, right? And that's sort of answering a question. But what is that? Yeah. What is that problem that you're trying to solve? What is that question you're trying to answer? What's the user intent that you're trying to respond to? Is it answering a question? Is it some sort of awareness component? Is it just factual of some sort? So there's there's those elements that play into quality. And I think there's this got getting off into the weeds just a little bit, but
Sure.
you're the writer. I want to bring this back to you. After I mentioned the part of quality that's user experience, this was an outlier, I think, and a surprise one that a lot of people talk about, but they put this as a plus two. So it's the second most important thing. And so what's the intersection of content, quality, and user experience? And we talk about, I mean, we do a lot of writing. We talk about these things and how the user experience for delivering, especially editorial content, plays into that. And I mean, you do a ton of writing for us. What are the things that you focus on from a quality perspective and from a user experience perspective, and trying to get people to parse out, important data from, a 1,000-word blog post?
Right. And I think there's a couple elements to it. I think there's some nuts and bolts pieces that are worth talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean this leads to something that is quality, but without these nuts and bolts, then the quality just can't be there. And that is one, like you just referenced, length of post. So we know that posts now, the average of the most highly ranked posts are somewhere around 1,200 words. And that may sound daunting to folks, and they might not be in that world right now, but that's a world you need to get into. Secondly, using imagery and multimedia within your post that's relevant. Those are signals for high ranking as well. In fact, the more images you tend to put in a post and the longer the post, generally speaking here, it's seeming that those are ranking higher as well. Now, there's another factor that's completely on the rise with bloggers, and that is the time spent writing a post. So sure, you've got all the words, sure, you've got the relevant imagery, but how do you know that you've done a good job? If you're writing 1,200 words in 45 minutes and posting it, I'm going to say that's a rough draft, right? What we found is the top bloggers that are ranking the highest spend upwards of 6 hours on average per post. Wow. If you're posting once a week, that's pretty significant, and that's a lot of your time. Doesn't mean everybody has to spend 6 hours, but for anyone that goes to the Gulo website and looks at our voice search SEO blog post, that took more than 6 hours, probably double that and triple that maybe, to put together, because it was a pillar piece of content for us. So if you're throwing things together, it's not going to be where it needs to be. And then the other piece is this: the audience for which you're writing to, you need to know, and also not to get too flowery in your language. You want to keep it very simple, short sentences, easy words. If you get too jargony and too many clauses in your sentences, that tends to diminish where you're going, and also just not bring the best quality content to the most people, just from a delivery of message goes. So those are a couple of things that I would just throw out right off the bat to say, if you're not doing those things, then you're not even going to get close to meeting the quality threshold.
So when you do this, you're talking about time and quality and all of the components of that. Does that include research? They put research. Research was another one we didn't mention at the onset. I mean, that's just huge. An important quality. You got to write. I mean, I'd
say half the time I spent, if I spent 15 hours on it, let's just say it might've been more, but I would say half that time was research, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah. You got to get your original content, and you can't, it's hard to do original content and original quality content without doing some research, for sure. And again, that scored a 3 as well. So, the other thing that we wanted to segue and talk about here was the element of authority and backlinks, and the one, separating those two out, two, I think the score of backlinks, which that was was the lowest positive score that you could get, which was a 1.
Yeah.
And authority was a 3. And this is, we all know, is a really important one,
Yeah.
which includes coveted links, shares, and sort of other signals. So what were your original thoughts when you saw that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I thought, and I'd love to hear what you think about the duality of those two things. But for me, what always stands out, and especially, we work with small to mid-sized businesses and associations and nonprofits, right? So when you're talking about um, a an association, for example, they may not think they have a lot of competition. They may not even think SEO is important. But because they're not looking for people to find them online and join necessarily, not all of them. So, but the word that tends to resonate with associations is authority, because it's not about using search engine optimization to get people to go to your event or to sign up and be a member. It's about making sure when your members go online, and they do, to help themselves in their job. Let's just keep it simple as an example. And they're looking for assistance or information about their industry. If your website as an association comes up because you've optimized SEO around key topics, then you're showing authority. Okay, so take aside what authority means with SEO and just say, what does authority mean for you as an organization? Don't you want to position yourself as an authority? So that's what I think really resonates and what comes to my mind just when I hear that word. But let's take that just a little bit deeper. How do you think, I mean, we know backlinks, and it's debatable as to, I don't know if it's debatable, but it's a debate that people have about how relevant it is, and how important it is. But when you see them matching these two up, one as authority that mentions links, and then one as backlinks is just a mechanism. I mean, what are some of your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, in your quest to promote, in one's quest to promote one's content, you can't do that without some sort of backlink, right?
Yeah.
The only way that we're going to get any recognition for the things that we put out there, recognition is not the right word, but any readers or eyeballs on the things out there, is disseminating that information through different channels. Obviously, we've got social, email, and then the other one is their organic, and then the last one is, which organic plays into a role in organic, is the web, or the graph, the backlink graph, right? So
Yeah.
that's how people are going to find us, and that's how we're going to build up our own authority. But that quest to find that is challenging, because we're not all going to get, nor is it relevant for us all to get backlinked from HuffPost or
Right.
something like that. So
Inc.com.
we've got it,
right.
yeah, Inc.com and things like that. So we've got it. We do have to find synergistic mechanisms to promote our related content. And so there's the backlinks, and there's a combination of authority. But where does authority sort of come into play with all of this? And what is considered an authoritative site? That's the $1 million question. We've got these, we've got these metrics out there with domain authority and the Google authority and things like that. And what does that actually mean?
Sure.
So I think the takeaway there is really, make sure if backlinking is part of your strategy, and trying to find opportunities to promote your content or disseminate your content, just use common sense. Look for people that have that are within your industry or related industries, that you're going to be able to do some sort of promotional exchange with, or something like that. One great way is to try and what you've actually done this too is promoting your content and trying to get your content disseminated through different channels, such and have yourself quoted or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Things like that are great.
Yeah.
Are great little tactics to do that. So
Agreed. Yeah. And I mean, I think one thing, just a little tip here is what we have found, and I'm sure it's similar in many industries. There are journalists out there that are always needing the next idea and always needing some fresh insight into an article, and they go to Twitter for that. It's just plain and simple. So if you make a point to stay in front of, find the hashtag for your industry, find the key journalists in your industry, and maybe you don't want to go for the big names. Maybe you can take it down a tier or two that might mention you on a blog post as opposed to the New York Times. But that's huge, because they want to either talk to you, or they may even just link to your article as a reference within a bigger article because you've prompted them for an idea. So yeah, I mean, I think Twitter and LinkedIn is another option too, but I've really found that Twitter can be a place where people pick you up and you can really get some traction around that. So that's something.
We're content cannibals these days, and so are the editors that are responsible for these sites. We're always looking for good ideas and good things to bring to our own sites and our own promote ourselves. So people are more willing. I think the takeaway there is people are more willing than you think.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Hey, so as we progress here and think about the last thing we want to talk about from this periodic table of SEO factors from Search Engine Land, is what they call emerging verticals, which implies these are things we're going to need to be thinking about more than we do now. That's how I'm reading this. However, what's interesting is local search is part of the emerging, and we know that's been around. It's evolving though, but can you just give a couple quick pointers when it comes to local search, what people should be thinking about, what's the absolute bare minimum they should do locally for SEO?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think the takeaway there was kind of a surprise that was emerging, right? I mean, that was kind of both of our responses. I would say, voice absolutely emerging, video emerging in the sense that there's signals that people are saying, there are signals that Google's putting out that they're giving emphasis to people with, as you mentioned earlier, with more mixed media in their content, videos, writing, images, etc. So, and images is part of that. So, but local was kind of like, how does that fit into this puzzle? And I don't know what they were thinking, but my thought on it was particularly with regard to just the inflection that we've seen with the near me searches, and different things like that. And I think the real thing, the real thing to think about is, like, from a local perspective, is, and how it pertains to your business or your service is, what is your locality? Is your locality Earth? Is it Asia? Is it North America? Is it Illinois? Is it Chicago? What is your actual locality? And if it is, let's just drill down to us, Chicago, for example, digital agency near me, web design near me. How can you appear in those local packs and Google Map searches and things like that, and making sure your internal SEO person or your agency is dialed into those things, and that you have strategies in place and keywords in place to make sure that you're aligned. And one of the tangential elements of that, of course,
Yeah.
is having schema, making sure
Oh
your
yeah.
schema is in
Hmm.
place for that. They have that's a local schema is really important for that. Having my business listings, and this is something that people don't not everybody agrees with, but again, you gotta look at your data, look at your customers, and identify who your customers are. Google My
Yeah.
Business is the obvious one. We have, interestingly enough, we have a couple customers that get a disproportionately high amount of search from Bing. So
Hmm.
we put a lot of emphasis for those customers on Bing, one, and two, into Bing local, and make
Okay.
sure that they're appearing for those local searches, because
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
just what the data shows and where their customers are coming from. So we don't want to just show the sort of be naive and believe that Google is 100% of the search ecosystem. It's
It's not.
damn
Yeah.
high, but it's not
Yeah.
100%. So there
Sure.
are other people out there, and we have to know who our customers are. So
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, there
Well, no,
was
that's great.
well, we can put a screenshot up for this too. One
Sure.
interesting, I saw this recently I was at my in-laws in Ohio, and searching for Home Depot. This was just kind of the importance of local search, and we'll put up a screenshot for this, and showing searching for Home Depot, and I could not find a Home Depot. You're like, how is there not a Home Depot in Southern Ohio? Well, as you can see in this screenshot, somebody had changed on the Home Depot local team. They changed the Home Depot Google Maps titles to list cabinets, furniture, and something else. I don't remember what it was, but
Wow.
it was like when you looked at Google Maps, you're just like, nothing.
Where?
Where's
Yeah.
there was all these dots, and it wasn't registering in my head that it was like Home Depot, but they had
Mm,
essentially changed their it wasn't exactly their meta description, but put their meta description in their title tag,
yeah.
and the title
Yeah.
tag and the meta description, and visually, because we're so attuned to how
Hmm.
the map bubbles appear, you couldn't tell anything, and it actually we post this was a while ago, it was like 3 weeks ago, and had a conversation on Twitter about it, and it kind of for me it kind of blew up, and it was really interesting conversation about just, I mean, these people are testing different things and trying different
Yeah.
things, and visually it's just a disaster,
Not.
because
Yeah.
you couldn't find
Okay.
Home Depot. It just
Yeah.
broke all the conventions. But
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Well, it's
anyway,
interesting. I mean, like you said, people are trying new things, and even the biggest of the big, Home Depot, they've got local search is a huge part of their strategy. It's got to be all
right.
retail, and for them to kind of, whether intentionally or not, sort of mix it up a little bit, the repercussions of that are pretty interesting. So that's an interesting anecdote. So it's about knowing audience, knowing who you're trying to serve and where, making sure your data, clearly Home Depot, is correct and formatted correctly. Those are that's a cost of entry. And then
Right.
understanding how you're going to promote yourself locally as well. And we can attest to this as well. How does that local search record appear when it comes to your ranking? We have a particular keyword, if you remember, that ranks 3 or 4, but it's for the local pack listing. It's not for any page on our website. So that's just something else to keep in mind as you look at your traffic and where you're ranking. That local listing could actually organically rank, while another page that you might think is relevant or you're trying to optimize for a particular keyword isn't. And
Right.
so that's just a nuancy kind of thing that people might not be thinking to look for. But it's also the kind of thing that we help our clients with the kind of services that we provide as well. So that's all good, man. Hey, listen, I think this is a really cool thing. Periodic table of SEO factors from search engine land. We're going to share a link in the comments, and so everyone can go there. You could just simply Google it and find it as well. But it's really something to look into and to take with you and to show your team. And if nothing else, might give you a frame of reference for yourself, just to how to think about these elements. Don't you think it's all on one page? It's something that you can just kind of sink your teeth into and go, oh, here's how important these things actually are. I think that's the brilliance of this myself.
Yeah. Good job, guys. This was enjoyable to talk about, and we look forward to 2020's version of the periodic table of SEO factors.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Zach. Today, this was all really good stuff. And we'll be getting together with you to get our next podcast out to the world. Hi, everybody. Thanks for checking out the podcast today. Go to gulosolutions.com to learn more about us. Subscribe to our newsletter. Also, if you can hit subscribe on our channel here on YouTube, that would be great as well.